What's going on, everyone? Aaron here with Happy Hydro. Welcome to our YouTube channel, and I am so excited to announce I have a special guest today. You probably already guessed it. It's Mr. Grow It himself.
What's up?
How's it going?
Glad to be here.
Awesome. Yeah. So yeah, I figured you took some time to come to Buffalo, check out Happy Hydro, and I snagged him for an interview. See if we can ask him a couple questions to kind of pick his brain a little bit.
For sure.
Sweet. What do you feel is the most important step for a new grower? I figured that's the easiest thing to ask first.
I get asked this a lot, like what is the first step starting to grow, right? Because there's so many people starting to grow. There's legalizations coming across the country, state by state by state. More and more people are attempting to grow. The first step, really, in my opinion, is to do the research, right? You got to understand and get the basics, understand what you're doing, right? I know it seems like a simple, laughable type of answer, but like, if you go in there, there's a lot of people that go in there blindside, you know what I mean? They reach out to me, they're like, okay, I've got seeds. Now what do I do?
That's a good place, to, to
well,
be
first,
confused.
do the research, how to grow cannabis, or how to grow lettuce, or how to grow kale, whatever you're looking to grow.
Yeah.
And then, pick up a book, follow somebody on YouTube. Maybe there's some growers on there that you like how they present things, or you like how their plants look, and maybe you follow their style. So kind of conducting the research, understanding the different stages of growth, what you should be doing in those different stages of growth, having the equipment, knowing what equipment to have. And that's kind of the first area to start it.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. You want to be able to, understand what you're doing before you kind of jump into it, because sometimes it's almost harder to retroactively learn about maybe what you should be doing instead of, taking the time to be like, oh, this makes sense. I should buy a tent first, give these plants a home, Right. Absolutely. That's good. Awesome. What did you find your favorite part of growing to be? I assume you've been growing for a while now. Your name's Mr. Grow It. So is there a certain aspect where you're like, this is it, this is my time to shine?
So I've been growing for 11 years now. Wow. So that's just cannabis. Actually, I'm new to vegetables somewhat.
Nice.
I've been growing vegetables for about 3 years now. So
okay.
Leafy greens, lettuce, kale, so on and so forth. The most exciting part is watching the plants grow. As cheesy as that may sound, right? But like, having that confidence, like you've done the research. We already talked about do the research. Once you plant those seeds, seeing that seed sprout, it's just, okay, seed sprouted. Now what's the next step? And I gotta wait 7 to 10 days to really see, growth may seem slow, but all of a sudden after that it starts to take off. Yeah. But seeing that happen, doing changes, like whether it be some type of training, right? Training is a hot thing. Low stress training, topping, super cropping, doing those processes and seeing the result from it, and seeing that what you've researched, the hard work you've done, the time-consuming thing you've done researching, implementing it, and seeing the change happen. So I'd say that's got to be the most exciting thing.
Yeah, to kind of see
the
that little
flowering
life
stage.
Yeah,
The flowering stage is also very, very exciting.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
Seeing the plant in the flowering stage, seeing those buds develop, whether you like big buds, whether you like dense buds, whether you like seeing trichome production, or whatever your thing is. It's so subjective on what people like within a plant. That can be exciting for sure.
Yeah, so you're pretty much like, you love the beginning because it's almost like that sense of new life where you're kind of seeing that all of your hard work, your research, your studying, it pops up through the soil. And then obviously the end, you're seeing the fruits of your labor. That's so cool. Absolutely. So since you've been growing for like 11 years, like you were saying, you've had to have some miscues or, some what seems like a disaster happen. Is there any notable ones that you can remember, and how did you sidestep those? How did you recoup? What do you do in those moments?
Yeah, so I got a lot of them, of course. I think everybody who's growing has had things that have gone wrong. It's part of it. It's part of growing, right? You don't know everything. You gotta try things out, and if it doesn't go right, well then you gotta figure out what went wrong and prevent that from happening again in the future. Something that comes to mind, and I have mentioned this on other podcasts before, because it is something that is it's one of those things that was detrimental to my grow, and it is something that a lot of people fall into, and it's very memorable for me, which is nitrogen toxicity in flowering. So in particular, if you're feeding your plant, if you're over-fertilizing your plant, feeding your plant, most likely it's too much nitrogen, leaves will be super dark, you could get curling, leaves could be shiny. A lot of people mistake that for health.
Gotcha.
They might say, oh, my leaves are green, everything's healthy.
I was gonna say, yeah, because
know?
it seems like there's a couple different factors that would almost are hard to distinguish right away.
Yeah, of course, if you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't know what you're doing and you just look at it and say, oh, it's shade of green, nice dark, lush
Yeah.
green. Well, too dark is actually bad.
Really?
You know, shiny leaves is actually bad. Curling is actually bad. And if you go all the way into the flowering stage, you know, weeks 2, 3, 4, you can notice that your bud structure is a little bit off compared to what you're maybe seeing in pictures or what you've grown into before. They're not dense, they're not tight bud structure. You get real airy buds.
Okay.
So I had a grow a long time ago where I didn't check the ppm of the runoff, didn't check the pH of the runoff. Just kind of ignoring that because I got a couple grows successfully and I was like, you know what, I can do this. I don't need to check pH, I don't need to check ppm. And I over-fertilized, right?
Oh, wow.
So over-fertilized, got all the way up until the flowering stage, weeks like 4, 5, and 6. That's when I noticed like really bad. I'm like, wait a minute, something's not right here. Why are these buds so airy and disgusting and gross? And then I found out what nitrogen toxicity was. You know, just ignorant in the fact
learn
that I
real
didn't
quick
really
though.
know what it was, and it ruined my grow. You know, there's no recovering from it. Week 5, week 6, if you've got these airy buds, like even if you flush your plant and get things back on track, I was using synthetic nutrients at the time. It just, that bud structure stays airy. There's no recovering at that point.
Because it's almost grown now like that, right?
Exactly, yeah. So completely ruined that grow. I mean, I still harvest it. I was still able to smoke it. It was disgusting. It was the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
Airy, real fluffy bud structure, not my cup of tea. I actually ended up, I made some of it into edibles, they were okay. I did the dry ice process, make some hash, try to extract the trichomes off of it, to try to salvage it.
Really,
you know,
any
I hated
point you can.
smoking the flower, yeah.
Right.
I'm a flower type of guy.
Okay.
And couldn't press it out, just wasn't pressable.
Just nothing?
To
Oh,
rosin
man.
or concentrate. I was able to salvage a little bit, but there's a large amount I just threw away, to be honest with
because
you.
if you're not,
It was gross.
Yeah.
I just grew another crop.
End of the day, it's just gross.
Yeah, I just grew another crop and those buds were fine. And
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just, that's detrimental for sure.
Really, yeah.
It was one of my worst grows.
So it sounds pretty bad if you're just scouring the earth to find ways to use it.
Yep.
Absolutely. But it sounds definitely like, you know, it's, if something does happen, maybe sometimes the best case is you don't let that linger in your brain. You'll learn from it, keep going, it's on to the next grow. You learned your mistake. Just don't tell anyone, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, just keep it to yourself.
Right.
So maybe it ties into the last one. What do you think is what is the easiest thing to overlook when you're growing? Like maybe you get into just a rhythm and then next thing you know.
I feel like the easiest thing to overlook is probably just thinking, and it ties back to the last one, which is thinking you know it, you know, in detail and being able to implement things and getting too overly comfortable, right?
Yeah.
There are a lot of growers out there that, you know, I see comments in the YouTube section, YouTube comment section, or Instagram. People are like, I've been growing for 30 years. I know this. Once I hear that, it's a red flag.
Yeah.
Because there is so many different ways to grow this plant. And so, you know, I mean, growing soil, cocoa, DWC, hydroponics.
Yeah.
Like, sure, you could accomplish a lot in 30 years and grow a bunch of different styles and learn a lot, but it's never ending. We don't know everything there is to know about the plant.
Seriously, I didn't even think about that.
New science is coming out. So yeah, just not getting too comfortable in the sense and pretending like you know everything. You know, having that continuous improvement mindset, I think, is one of the things that everybody should kind of instill.
Yeah.
And have fun with it. You know. I
Yeah.
mean, so a lot of people take things so seriously, and especially if you're putting yourself out there and uploading your videos online.
Yeah, seriously.
Posting pictures on Instagram. There are people who bully you, harass you about your grow.
I know who you are.
That stuff, you know, when you're putting yourself out there, you're gonna get it, but don't beat yourself up too hard.
Yeah.
Over, you know what I mean? Because people do make mistakes.
Yeah,
and you can easily learn from your mistakes, and then hopefully you don't make the same mistake in the future.
Yeah, that's very true.
I don't know if that answered that question.
No, I think it's spot on. You know, complacency is gonna, you know, kill you at the end of the day.
Yeah,
definitely. So I got another question for you. How many grows do you think you got into before you start to really feel comfortable? Almost like a pro almost, where you can go in there, you didn't have to do as much research. Are you just kind of winging it? Do you just feel comfortable? Is it like muscle memory at this point? How do you feel now from your first grow?
This goes right back to my last question is, like I'm not pro. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I don't,
yeah, that's
I
true.
don't consider myself to be like, oh, you're an expert at what you're doing. I'm like, no, I'm a small home grower, right? I grow 12 plants. I'm just some guy who grows plants for myself. I don't sell dispensaries. I'm not a caregiver or anything like that. I'm just a small home grower growing for myself, and I upload videos to YouTube.
Yeah.
And you know, people like to watch those videos and steal best practices from there. I encourage people to steal best practices, things that they want to implement in their grow. But by no means do I consider myself an expert or a pro or a scientist or a soil scientist or anything like that. I'm always trying to instill that continuous learning aspect of it, because really, if I were to go in there and say, hey, I am a pro, I am the guy in the white coat, it's like, no, there's nobody out there like that. You know what I mean? Like, there are scientists out there that know a lot, but there are some scientists out there that don't actually have any experience growing.
Yeah, that's true. They're just the science
book smart,
aspect.
They're not street smart, right? They don't have any garden experience. So I don't feel like I'm a pro at all.
Nice. Yeah, that's really cool. That's kind of like, you know, you're kind of just announcing you're just a normal guy that you're finding best practices by, you know, making mistakes from here to there and learning from yourself and your grows. That's awesome. During your time growing, do you have like any, I call them aha moments, where you're like, I should have been doing that this way the whole time. What was I thinking? Do you got anything like that?
I would say probably switching to LED grow lights.
Really?
Yeah, because I would grow HPF for so long.
Okay.
You know? I spent most of my the first 5-6 years using HPS grow lights.
Oh, wow.
And you know, they have their benefits. I'm not going to completely knock HPS.
Yeah.
You know, people still love them. Great bud structures you can get off of it. You can definitely get a good plant off of it. But switching to LED, there are a lot of benefits of it. I know it's expensive. Right? More expensive than your traditional HID system, whether it be HPS, MH, CMH, that also falls under HID, high intensity discharge grow lights. But switching over to LED grow lights, I mean, there's just been so much more benefits. I can keep my grow light distance closer, so I can raise it up to the roof, have more grow my plants bigger, less heat, a little bit less heat.
Gotcha.
With keeping the same intensity, if not greater intensity.
Yeah.
As far as photon density down to the plant, energy consumption. I think a lot of people know about that. Less energy for more photons most of the time. But switching over to that, I think was one of those yes, this has been so beneficial, because I struggled with heat.
That makes total sense then.
Yeah, in the desert, I grew in the desert.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, Las Vegas. Where I've been growing for a little while. In summertime, it's you're looking HPS in the summertime.
Triple digits.
The amount of heat that's generating, it can be super tough. So switching over to LED,
impacts, huge impact.
Yeah, I didn't have to deal with the heat as much. So
I didn't think. Well, being here in Buffalo, I usually don't think about that stuff.
Every climate's different, you know. People, I mean, we could go on about temperature, humidity in different areas. I know my area it's a very dry climate. You know?
That's true.
20-30% humidity, and that's people in Pacific Northwest. I mean, here, probably like at 60+% relative humidity.
It's always muggy.
So it's different depending on where you live.
Yeah, and then you kind of just gotta face those factors when you're kind of just getting into it, and that goes back to learning about your environment, doing your research, maybe setting yourself up for success.
Absolutely.
Key to it. Do you notice yourself listening to any certain type of music when you're growing? Is there something that relaxes you? Do you just do like rock and roll? Do you do just dead silence?
I mean, usually it's EDM actually.
Okay.
Mostly EDM.
Sweet.
Yeah. I do listen to like a lot of podcasts.
Gotcha.
When I grow. That's mostly what I have on the garden.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, because I was wondering if the plants reacted any differently to Elvis or Bass Nectar or something else.
So it's funny you mentioned that.
Really?
I don't know if you've heard about that.
No.
So old wives' tale, I guess you could say. People used to sing to their plants back in the day, and they swear growth was better, right? So they would sit there and sing to their plants. Little do they know they're actually exhaling CO2, which
That's
is helping
so true.
with growth.
That's so funny. Here they are just singing their favorite songs.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
There's also a frequency thing. They talk about the frequency helps with the loudness. you can Google it and look more into it. I don't have too much details
Yeah.
on it, but from my understanding, playing music, it has to be at a decibel so loud in order for there to be the impact. It's like a jet engine.
Oh wow, so yeah, it's not even
So-
like comfortable at that point.
Yeah. So there's actually been studies on that. You can Google it, Google Scholar,
Wow.
or whatever. I thought that was super interesting.
Yes,
those
yeah,
pieces of it,
seriously.
yeah.
I brought it up as a joke, but there's like real science about it and everything. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Yeah, we'll have to check. We'll leave that one. We'll do the growing part.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. So I know you've been growing forever, and I love watching you on YouTube and stuff like that. And I've always wondered, like, what did you do before this? You seem so natural, sitting in front of a camera, explaining to people, you know, helping them to grow. What have you done?
Well, I worked at Amazon.com for 8 years, actually. Started as a picker, packer, shipper.
Okay.
Worked my way out to management. I was managing a fulfillment center. Well, I was an area manager within one of the Amazon fulfillment centers. And there's probably several people watching that are from Amazon. So
Yeah.
shout out to you.
Yeah, right.
And then I was working with worldwide operations as well, you know, helping process improvement side of things mostly. Before that, I was doing real estate. I was a real estate agent for like a year and a half. Got in at the worst time possible. I think
Yeah,
it was like
definitely.
2008 crash
Oh.
back then. So I only spent like a year and a half doing it.
Yeah, I
Sold
would
like a house and
get out of
did
there.
one rental and that was it. Liked it, but
Yeah.
but most recently, right before the whole Mr. Grow It thing, is I actually was a producer, director of prank videos on YouTube.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh
Prank video.
man.
So that channel no longer exists. I was
Ugh.
mostly behind the camera. I was in front of the camera
Yeah?
for a few different pranks, but for the most part, I was more comfortable behind the camera, and
Gotcha.
directing things and coming up with the prank ideas. And I
Oh,
had
so you're the mastermind.
yeah, I had a couple actors that you know, film videos with.
Yeah.
And so we'd go out on the Las Vegas Strip and prank people.
Oh man. What a
It was-
perfect spot too.
Yeah. So we did that for like 2-3 years, and then moved on because well, it was a falling out between the initial guy that was I was with. I don't want to get too into
Yeah.
on that, but yeah, been in video production a little bit before I moved
That's-
on to the cannabis industry side of
Okay,
things,
and then
so.
they kind of just naturally fit in together since you're so used to.
I was
working behind the
growing, and
camera.
I really liked, you know, filming and editing. I mean, I even going back to when I was like 15 years old, you know,
Yeah,
like
just making stupid videos
20
or something.
years ago, stupid videos of my
Yeah.
friends, yeah. And so I was always the guy behind the camera filming
Nice.
things going on. And then after the prank video thing kind of, you know, fell flat on its face, I guess I'll say that, or ended, is when I knew, like, I want to work in the cannabis industry, you know?
Yeah.
Like, there's an industry here now. This was
Yeah, it's
2015, 2016, and this is when
Okay.
my state was really just coming on. They went rec.
Yeah.
And dispensaries started opening up, and I was like, I can actually do something with this. And so I put the video production along with the cannabis cultivation, the home growing
Incredible.
together.
Yeah.
And I started just trying to get feedback from people. Like,
Yeah.
hey, what do you think of my grow? Like, what can I do to improve my grow? And then it turned out to me answering questions in the chat, in the comment section. Then me like, okay, I'm answering the same questions. Let me do a website with a page on where to get equipment, so I can just forward someone to this page, I'll forward someone to this link with frequently asked questions. And then it just kind of, you know, went on and on from there. I wrote a book on how to grow. I actually have it
Yeah,
right here.
absolutely. Show them
Right
up.
here. So,
Yeah.
you know, I read the Jorge Cervantes book, Ed Rosenthal. Shout out to them. Great books, great authors, highly respected.
Oh, yeah.
Huge influence to my book here. One of the things with buying their book was a lot of it went over my head.
Oh yeah.
You know, it got too
Yeah.
deep. You know, you read the book and a beginner, you're like, do I really need to know this? You know, so it's
like,
like
just trying to figure it out, and here you are getting bombarded.
yeah. So I felt like there needed to be something more simplified. You know, there needed to
Yeah.
be something. So I took my experience growing for 6 years and just put it into a book, just a complete beginner's guide on growing indoors in particular, growing in soil or coco coir. And, you know, it's got equipment. You know, it's first chapter, seeds, all about seeds and it's different stages of growth, vegetation stage, flowering, you know, harvest, dry, cure. And then on the very back is just the top 12 plant problems that you could face when you're growing. Just a beginner's guide to kind of get people through their first grow. This is not everything you need to know about it.
I would say
There's
it's
some
gonna be
people-
pretty easy.
Yeah, there have been some people like, oh, I didn't really learn much. Well, right, it's a beginner's guide. This
Yeah.
is just to get your feet wet, give you some general knowledge. There's a lot of general information on there. just to get you through your first few
Oh,
grows, and then from there you can, you know, read other books, read some of those advanced books by,
Yep.
you know, Jorge Cervantes, Ed Rosenthal,
Yeah.
or any of the other guys, or watching some more intermediate/advanced content on YouTube. So,
Gotcha. Yeah, because I've actually read through it and tried to learn
you?
everything. Oh yeah, and it's incredible, like groundwork. Like you're saying, it's a really inclusive beginner's guide, and it opens up the door for you to be a confident grower, but also it doesn't pinhole you into thinking one way. Like you're saying, you're leaving a lot of opportunity to look up some of these bigger books or look up some of these other figureheads in the industry, and you know, try to always learn more.
Yeah.
And I love it. It's a great book. Absolutely.
you.
Yeah, for
That's
sure.
awesome.
Yeah. As a person, or as a new grower myself, one thing I have a hard time, I guess, even wrapping my head around is just low stress training. Any ideas, tips that you could give me, someone who's just starting to learn how to do, you know, manipulate your plants and, you know, give you a bigger yield?
yeah. So it's documented that training, some sort of low stress training, does increase yield if done properly, right? So cannabis in particular, if you grow it naturally, plant the seed in there, you can let it grow naturally. If you don't want to do any training as a beginner, you don't have
it'll
to,
just grow.
right? Just let it grow. It's usually it's what people call Christmas tree style, right? So you
Okay.
have one main shoot, apical meristem is what it's actually called, technical term,
There it
and
is.
then you have
Got
all
it.
these lower branches. And what you can do is low stress training. You can manipulate the plant mostly people do it during the vegetative stage of growth.
Okay.
They'll bend their plant branches down, allow other branches to shoot up. So you have multiple branches coming up and you have multiple main colas is
Gotcha.
what some people refer it to as. Now, if you let it grow Christmas tree style, you can have this massive main cola.
I was gonna say,
You
yeah.
expose yourself, that's cool, but you can expose yourself to some risks, right? Bud rot,
Okay.
mold, if you have lack of airflow, there could be mold growing within the actual bud. I've had that happen to me before,
And
unfortunately.
yeah, oh my, couldn't
And,
imagine.
throw out a nice
I was gonna
big
say,
cola.
oh,
Yeah, it's heartbreaking.
my heart.
But bending it down, there's so many different ways to do it. There's so many different ways to do every process within growing. Everybody kind of has their own style. I recommend you just kind of get in there and figure things out on your own. Just
Yeah.
first goal should kind of be, in my opinion, would be to try to maintain an even canopy. And if you have that in mind, then when you're bending things down, and when you're bending that main shoot down, if it's lower than the other ones, then the other branches should dominate and
Really?
attempt to become the main cola. And then you kind of let that one that you manipulated, let that loose. Maybe another one shot up more than the others, bend that one down.
Gotcha.
So wide and flat like a table is kind of like the general
Okay, rule of thumb or whatever.
yeah,
Nice.
Yeah, general way to go about it. And then once you feel like you've got your canopy pretty even, your plant is roughly about half the size you want it to be towards the end of its life, then you would typically, a lot of growers, they'll flip to flowering at that point, right?
Gotcha.
So say you want a 4-foot plant, you might train your plant, you have multiple colas, maybe you have 8 colas, maybe you have 16 colas, about 2 feet tall, then flip over to flowering. General rule of thumb is that you're going to, it's going to grow double the height. Now that depends on genetics, depends on lighting, environment, nutrition. There's so many variables.
Oh yeah, at all steps almost.
Yeah, I was going to create a t-shirt. There's so many variables. Somebody suggested that.
Seriously.
But it's really subjective in the way you do it. That's just kind of a general way to do it. But it does, help increase the yield if done properly.
Oh, nice. So learning it is helpful in the long run.
Yep.
All right, I'll work on it. I promise. I promise. So, real serious question. When did you find out that you were a Bills fan?
I knew when she said serious question, that was some joke.
Yeah, right.
So you get the Bills.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm not biased. But.
I'm a football fan in general. I mean, I'm born and raised in Boston.
Okay.
Patriots, my team. Tom Brady, gotta love him.
Oh.
Yeah.
Can we edit this out?
I love what he did in New England. Still a Patriots fan, even though he's no longer there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You'll.
So pumped for him that he actually went to another team and got a Super Bowl with another team.
I know. It is. Honestly, that is like.
He's the GOAT.
It is a good quality. If you can just go somewhere and you're like, okay, I'm gonna win,
He's
and then
the
you just
GOAT.
win.
Yeah. And he's on track to potentially win another one. So that's insane.
Not this year.
But the Bills took over ever since he left.
Yeah.
You guys
Yes.
won-
Oh man,
won
it's
the
been a
division.
great year. Ever since, oh man, I've never seen him. Like, I remember when he was getting traded, and I'm like, anywhere but the AFC. Anywhere but the AFC. Anywhere but the AFC. And finally, it happened.
Florida for him.
Yeah.
NFC, different division. That even just makes him the GOAT even more.
Right, yeah, just going to travel into another division, be like, okay, I'm gonna win this one now.
Yeah.
Unreal.
Yeah, and then, but I mean, the Bills, I'm kind of rooting for them in
Thanks,
a sense,
man.
just because I like football in general. You know what I mean? And I love watching good football teams. The Patriots are a really good football team. They were fun to watch.
They honestly, yeah, they were
this
good.
year and even last year, the Bills are really fun to watch. They've got their shit together. So, yeah,
absolutely. It's
happy for you guys. Finally,
we're getting there. We're getting there.
I mean, I hate to bring up a sour subject.
Whoa,
four Super Bowl. All right, I won't say it anymore. I won't say it anymore. No.
Those are fighting words here. You better watch it. Yeah. So you want to announce anything you're working on?
I mean, I'm working on another book. Haven't really revealed what the book is about. Some people have guessed what it's about, but so I won't really reveal here. But it does have to do with gardening, cannabis. We'll leave it at that. Should be out mid next year.
Okay,
hoping.
cool.
I've got a lot of projects going on. I got 2 different podcasts I've got going on. Yeah, from the Stash podcast. Got to give a shout out to Rob from Cannabis Lifestyle and Pigeons at 420. Those are my boys. We've been doing it for a year now, and I love being with them and filming the podcast and shooting the shit with the boys. And
yeah, seriously,
we've got our own stash of Gromies in the chat.
Gromies.
Yeah, right. We've got them in the chat, just loyal followers that I wish I could meet you guys in person and hang out with you, because it's just so cool. We do that, every week we have an episode on that channel. It's on all podcast platforms as well. I've got my individual podcast called Garden Talk with Mr. Grow It, but it's basically interviews with one-on-one with growers, just me interviewing growers and kind of picking their brain on things that they know, whether they, just how they do things within their garden, or if they're an expert in some area, just kind of picking their brain about what they know in order to, selfishly increase my knowledge. Like I mentioned earlier, like I don't know everything, like I'm trying to learn, and I'm bringing my audience along with me. You know what I mean?
I think that's the best part.
Yeah.
You're sharing these opportunities that you're bulding. You're not also learning. You're teaching everyone. Kind of the same thing how we're doing here, where I'm definitely more inexperienced than you, but you're able to come here, succinctly tell us, good things to start off with, which is super cool to see. And definitely check out From the Stash.
Yep. From the Stash.
I was on there earlier today. So shout out to them, and thanks for coming to see us at Happy Hydro. Oh, one more question. So I know that you're writing a book, and that you're doing all these podcasts and stuff. The people out in the streets want to know when you're going to start boxing.
Boxing? Oh, you'd be one of those celebrity boxers?
Yeah. When are you going to take on one of the Paul kids and then put him to sleep or something?
Oh, man, yeah, we got to, I'm not really, I'm irrelevant compared to those guys. You know what I mean? Like, they've got so many millions and millions and millions
It's crazy.
I don't think that would ever happen. Although I do know how to box. I do have a friend who's a really good boxer, so I can. He would totally train me if it did come to that point.
That's all right. For sure. Yeah. Perfect. Awesome. It's been so awesome to talk with you, my man. I really appreciate you coming all the way to Buffalo, sharing your knowledge, sharing your fun, and I can't wait to see what we do later.
That's
do a little high five.
Peace.
See ya.